Welcome to the Science for Sport podcast, where we dive into stories and insights that drive peak performance. Join us as we uncover the secrets behind the science of success. Here's your host, Richard Graves.
Hello and welcome to the Science for Sport podcast with me, Richard Graves. FC Midtjylland are a top-flight club in Denmark's Superliga. Currently, they sit just 2 points off the league leaders, and in the Europa League, they've enjoyed big upset wins at Celtic and Nottingham Forest. In fact, they've only lost 3 competitive games all season. So what is their philosophy when it comes to sports science, and how are they utilising it to gain success on the pitch? Well, we can find out more now by speaking to their head of sports science department, Niklas Virtanen.
Unlocking sports science to push the limits of human potential. This is the Science for Sport podcast.
Well, my guest this week is somebody that I saw deliver a presentation at an event we both attended, Catapult hosted event down at Chelsea's Stamford Bridge ground last month. It was one of the more energetic, passionate presentations I think I've ever seen, especially in the sphere of sports science. So it's a very warm welcome to the Science for Sport podcast, to the head of sports science at FC Midtjylland, Niklas Virtanen. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, mate. Really appreciate it.
Niklas, I did say the one thing that attracted me to get in touch with you and say, look, have you got time to join us on the pod, was this presentation. Sports science is often seen as a fairly cold, analytical area to work in. It strikes me, and anybody that's been around you, I'm sure would agree, you live, breathe and eat this stuff. You love it.
Right. This is why we do it, huh?
Well, this is why we play sport, as Bill Parcells once said in the NFL. This is why we lift all those weights. Well, for you, tell me what it is that first attracted you to the area of sports science, and how have you ended up with Danish Superliga title contenders FC Midtjylland?
Yeah, so my story actually starts all 10, 12, 13 years ago in a small town called Jyväskylä in Finland. And obviously I played football all my youth. Did not make it to the top, so I decided to be a physio. We have a saying in Finland that if you end up as a physio, you failed as a football player. So that's on point with me. But I was a physio for a few years. Enjoyed football coaching, did my badges, went into coaching, and then ended up in performance coaching, fitness coaching, however you wanna put it. But then in the end, sports science is something where it all comes together for me, whether it's hydration, nutrition, performance data, physio data, football data. It all overlaps in sports science world. So that's where I get the most gigs, the best feeling from.
Well, whatever it is you're doing over there at FC Midtjylland appears to be working, because, as I say, you're right up there. I think there's 2 points between yourselves and AGF at the top of the league table in Denmark. English football fans, British football fans will be all too well aware of you this season for Midtjylland's exploits in the Europa League. You went to Nottingham Forest back in September, beat them 3-2. Then you go to Celtic and win 3-1 there. What is it you're doing at Midtjylland that, with all due respect, it's not one of the biggest clubs in European football, and yet at this point in time, it appears you are punching well above your weight?
Yeah, I think I'd like to put it this way, that we try to solve problems without money. So if you go to the big clubs and they have some issues, problems, questions, the first answer might be spending the money or finding replacements or whatsoever. But we like to use data and analytics to solve them, because, like you said, we're not the biggest. We don't have the biggest bank account, so we can never compete with the S tier clubs with money or best players or infrastructure, finances in general. So we have to be smart and find the competitive edge from somewhere else. And of course, sports science, set pieces, that's one of them.
Well, talk to me a little bit about that philosophy, because the one thing that stood out from the Forest game in the Europa League that I saw was your dominance at set pieces. Certainly 2, maybe all 3 of your goals you scored on that night came from set pieces, and the Forest fans, the play-by-play callers on the game, the commentators, it was something that stood out to everybody and was obvious. And yet here you are going away from home against a Premier League club who you'd imagine would be able to cope with that type of football, and on the night weren't.
Yeah, I think we drill them so much. It's part of my philosophy is that you train the way you play, or you need to train the way you want to play. And set pieces is tied with that, of course. So instead of doing maybe 20 blocks of set pieces at the end or at the start, we try to implement them in the model that we train them like we want to do them on the matches in competitive play. So we put a heavy emphasis on set piece performance, whether corner kicks, throw-ins, direct free kicks. Of course, we have a few tricks in the back with those that I can't share, but like, one thing that we all golfers should know, we use the TrackMan devices, so we really can analyze where the ball's landing, what are the drops, the spins, everything, and then we use the data to coach the players and get the better outcome in the matches.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into that philosophy and how it works side by side with sports science and data and analytics as well, because many people, casual observers, will be familiar with the sports vests and the little GPS trackers that are in them. That's great. It gives you data in a certain context. However, football isn't about linear and vertical lines. It's about sudden movements, high burst energy, impact at specific times in a very short space of time. So how do you go about making all that work, and how does that work into what you try and get across at Midtjylland?
If I'm putting it black and white, for me, football is all about micro actions. So how to get away from the opponent, how to get the small, tiny advantage in the box, in the midfield, so that we can play the final pass, breakthrough, get a free foot to bend it in, like the micro actions, micro movements. And of course, some teams, and we're one of the teams that we really like to murder the opponents with linear high-speed running. We want to be physically dominant team, but at the same time, football is not just about running. Maybe the key decisions are always around the ball, getting the advantage, finding the pass, and for you to achieve that, you need the micro actions, explosive, tiny stuff, double actions, and GPS has its strengths and limitations, and we are big fans of using the inertial data to track the micro actions and to use them on the daily life.
One of the things that struck me in your presentation was you talk about in a football-specific environment. You can be stood with a defender if you're a striker right up against your back, and you can make sudden turns one way or the other, go around in a circle. A GPS tracker may not necessarily tell you that the player's moved anywhere, because essentially you're still on the spot. Delve into that aspect for us a little bit deeper and why it's relevant to what you do.
Yeah, so I think most of the practitioners already understand the limitations of GPS, especially if you train in the stadiums, because the data is coming from the space. There's multiple satellites, and the data it's coming from those satellites, pinpointing the locations, and you need multiple satellites connected to the GPS to get more precise data. And let's say that you play in the stadium with the roof, or like, how do you say it? Bad coverage.
Yep.
Yeah. So then the data is less and less accurate all the time. Or let's say that you go Finland, which is close to Russia. There's a GPS interference. Not many satellites go on top of you. So the data is inaccurate.
How do you get around this problem then? How do you make it work?
Yeah, and with the GPS, the smaller the movement, the less accurate it is. We've all driven a car, and it tells you to take left from 45 meters, 50 meters, and then it's suddenly on top of your eyes. So that's the GPS. It's a really good when you want to cover longer distances. But this micro actions, it's blind. So you could draw a 1 meter, 2 meter radius around you, and GPS might be almost completely blind to the actions inside that area. And for me, that's where the magic happens in football. How to get away from the opponent? What are you doing with the ball? So we get around it by looking at the inertial data, because the inertial data comes from these are some really tough words for my Finnish mouth, but the accelerometer, gyroscope, and then the magnetometer. So it's creating all the data inside the device instead of sending it to the sky or whatever. So you're just producing the data all the time, micro actions, everything, even the tiniest bit of velocity changes, orientation changes is mapped inside the device, and then you can access that and analyze the movements you do.
So in your opinion then, what are the best wearables? What's the best technology to give you this information that you're looking for, which then you can relate to the coaching staff?
Now, obviously, I'm a big fan of Catapult devices because they come with GPS and high quality inertial data. So that's the one for me. But I've also heard someone using the player maker that you put on the boots. They have some inertial data in them. But yeah, I'm a big fan of combining the GPS and inertial data with the Catapult. Comes with a lot of metrics, so pick your poison.
Well, and it's like anything else in this field as well, isn't it? You can have thousands, millions of pieces of data coming in. The real key to success is how do you sift through the noise and put the data that really matters into context so that you can then make it mean something on the football field.
Yeah, now we're exactly on the core aspect of football for me. Sports science especially, and football science, they're all evolving so much. We all get so many papers coming out from football tactics, from sports science topics, and I think they're slightly sliding away from each other. But in the end, what's happening in the middle? That's the football. The players don't care about the sports science studies or tactical studies. They want to play football. Coaches are drifting to the left. We as sports science practitioners are drifting to the right, and the player is in the middle. And in the end, we need to serve the player because they are the ones deciding the outcome of the game. So for me, it's all about picking the metrics, finding the tools to help the players be the best versions of themselves. And then, of course, the club benefits. And hopefully, in the end, everyone around the club also.
Are you able to share with us some real-life examples? Obviously, don't mention names and specifics, but examples of where you've seen this have the greatest impact.
Let's draw a scenario that we everybody plays rondos or boxes, how you want to call it. 4 against 2, 5 against 2. We all know what it looks like. We've all done it ourselves. It's the best exercise for strikers, let's say, or fullbacks or wide players. Do they ever move like that in the match play? I doubt it. So is it the best possible exercise to involve those players, or should they be doing something else? That's one example that I'm trying to push in Midtjylland. Like, find the exercises that is really beneficial for all the individuals. We want them to play differently, so we should also want them to train differently from each other.
And of course, as the head of sports science, you can offer these scenarios and give the coaching staff the options laid out before them, and it's up to them ultimately what they use. How difficult does it become to get the buy-in when you're changing coaching staff and working with different teams?
Yeah, that's definitely the hardest part. Communication is probably the biggest issue everywhere you might go. We changed head coach a few months ago, and obviously the process almost starts all over again with the new staff and the head coach. Thank God we didn't change that many from the staff, but always new guys, new ideas, new ways of communication, how they want to hear things, how they want to see things, how they perceive things. So that's the biggest issue, but in the end, it's a process for me. And I think every week, if we take small steps to the right direction, we end to the right place.
And I imagine the easiest point for you, a point of reference, is if results on the pitch are actually going your way, then obviously people want to be associated with success.
Exactly. Let's not make it too complicated in the end.
It's a simple game, isn't it? It's about putting the ball in the net more times than your opponents. People obviously also use sports science increasingly now, of course, to monitor workload, try and reduce injury risk. How far have we come along with this line? And is there, this might be an unfair question to somebody in your position, but is there an unhealthy reliance on what analytics and sports data are telling us as regarding what players are capable of when in the competitive arena?
I think so. I think so. I think that we don't know the absolute limits of the players, and I need to give a shout out to our mental coach, B.S. Christensen, who's ex-military, did the special forces training with the U.S. Army back in the day, and he's always. You might Google this. What we do for our preseason camps and team bonding camps, we do extreme stuff. We go to the open sea, sail a boat. We go to Norway, snowstorm up in the mountains. We go to Scotland, surviving for 3 days. We might go to Africa in the desert for a few days just to survive. And he's BS. He's always saying that we don't know our limits. Like we everything's so easy for us in the games, in the trainings, in the daily life. So we need to find and push the limits. And when the body is saying that, okay, I've had enough, there's so much to go. There's so much energy, so much power in your brain to just push it. So answering your questions, I think that also applies to football analytics and like load monitoring, performance monitoring, everything. I'm not comfortable telling the head coach during the game that, okay, we need to sub this guy because he's done enough. I have no idea when they've done enough. We have benchmarks, reference values, but in the end, there's so much capacity in humans. They can really push it.
You appreciate, don't you, that in modern football particularly, there's so much money in the game. It's as much of a business now as it is a sport. What you've just said there probably sends shudders up and down the spines of executives, sports clubs throughout Europe.
Yeah.
How do you get that message across without being dismissed?
I don't know. We do the best we can with all the data we have, and of course we have so many data points coming. We try to analyze loads and stuff, but injuries happen, fatigue happens, and sometimes the answer is just okay. That it's part of the sports. And how do we build relationship with the players that they give their honest opinions, their feelings, how they're feeling, good communication. We have subjective data, objective data. We bring everything together in honest environment, trust, relationship, and then we make good decisions based on data. But also, let me take a few steps back. One of my saying is that I want to take feelings out from decision making to lead the discussion with data and data points instead of starting with what do we feel about this. So I think the right way to start the conversation is by bringing in facts. This is what we see from multiple data points. This is the load patterns. This is the GPS, inertial, wellness, hydration, whatever it is. We bring all the data we can. Your opinion, my opinion, they're also data at this point. And then we arrive to a conclusion. This is what we feel like based on all the data points we presented. Let's talk about this. Instead of just starting to talk about what do you feel, what do I feel, what does he feel, and then, okay, yeah, but data. Okay, first data, and then opinions about the conclusion that we arrived. I think that's what I try to achieve and do in my job.
And this is the balancing act, isn't it? Because many old school players and coaches will talk about the eyeball test, relying on what I physically see with my eyes. Modern day sport, it's about technology, it's about data, it's about analytics, and being in a preventative mode, if you like, because the last thing you want to do, if you have the world's best player over the last decade, say it was Lionel Messi, say it was Cristiano Ronaldo, they're no use to you if they're injured and not on the pitch. So you want to keep them on at all times. But equally, I imagine the way sports science has moved, the way philosophies have moved, is that if you hit a certain metric, you'll have had a sports scientist of some description coming up to the coach, the manager, saying, you need to take him off now. But if you're tied 3-3, say, in a game, and it's for the league title, and it's a must-win game, are you going to pull that player off when you know he's a bona fide match winner? Or do you say the eyeball test, the player himself is saying, I want to stay on?
Yeah, that's a discussion. And there are so many good examples, so many good models from the past where we try to predict injuries. And I think everybody agrees that we can't predict injuries. Now with AI, let's see what we get in the future. Probably something better that we've had for the past years. But I don't think anybody can predict when this injury going to happen. We know that when the risk is going to get higher and higher and higher, but when is it going to be over the tilting point? I don't think no one knows. So
it's a constant learning curve.
Yeah, and it's trust with the players, trust with the staff, that we all make the decisions looking from the right perspective, not the egoistic decisions. We're not worried about, okay, if you get injured, I'm going to look bad, or we all agree on what are the terms, why we do the decisions and the protocol, and then we stick with it.
So going forward then, in your opinion, how does the world of sports science and the world of sport itself align moving forward? Because there is, without questions, a debate out there saying that the passion in some instances, the cut and thrust of competitive sport has been diminished somewhat because we're too reliant on shapes, formations, what the data and analytics are telling us. Equally, though, it strikes me from what you're doing at Midtjylland, there's a convergence of the two, or an attempt to bring the two together and take the best from both worlds to obviously give you the outcome you desire.
Yeah, obviously I think we're one of the, I'd love to say that we're one of the biggest data users out there. We trust data so much from different data sources, but at the same time, we try to understand that we're humans and we all have opinions. And in the end, the data doesn't make the decision. It's a human who makes the decision. And we just need to acknowledge that. That's the way it is. The better we use data, we use it a lot to make the decisions. But in the end, it's someone from us who's pulling the trigger, not one data point. And sometimes it's the player who's just saying that I'm feeling something in my hamstring. And then imagine the scenario, players feeling something in the hamstring, everything, all the data points looks brilliant. Expert opinions, physios are super confident. But then the player's like, I can't play. And then if we end up putting him in, is he going to perform? I doubt it. So it's constant balancing.
Absolutely, it is. We're close to the point where we'll have to wrap up, but you started this conversation, Niklas, by telling us that ultimately you were a frustrated sportsman that couldn't actually play at a high enough level. So this is the career path that you ended up going down. For anybody that finds themselves in a similar position, what would your advice to them be?
I would suggest sports science for everybody. No, I would say that whatever you find interesting, dive with it, and find your passion. I've obviously found my passion, and for me, it's what would you say? Practical validity. That's my thing.
Yeah.
So I really want to focus on the things that might not be the most scientifically approved, but they work in the daily life, and you get to see the buy-in and the value in the daily life. So my advice, find your thing and go for it.
Well, one of the things I've found is that every time I've heard you or spoken to you now, there's been something that you've said or referenced that I've found fascinating, has drawn me in a little bit deeper. So for those that are feeling the same, where can they find you and where can they follow along on social media?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest on social media. Probably I should be, but yeah.
But you're a tech guy.
Yeah. I don't like to put myself on the pedestal. But yeah, you'll find me on LinkedIn and just shoot me a message if you want to have a chat or anything. I'm always up for that. And then one advice that I've actually started doing myself is just contact the guys you think are smart. I need to give a big shout out to Chris Barnes and Paul Bolsom. I've learned so much from them, and everything I do with IMA is I got so much push from those guys to start investigating, and just they told me that maybe even if it doesn't sound the most scientific, go for it. Do your own research, test it. If it works, do it. So another advice, just contact the guys you think are smart and you like, and then you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to reach out. It's sound advice as well. Niklas, it's been a delight speaking to you. Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. All the best with what lies ahead this season with FC Midtjylland.
Thank
No
you.
doubt we'll get to see more of you as you progress in the Europa League. I think it's 3 wins and 1 defeat so far in the league stages. You're almost there in the knockouts already.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for.
Best of luck. We will keep an eye out for you. Have a very Merry Christmas, and hopefully we'll catch up again in the new year.
Thank you. Same to you, mate.
Unlocking sports science to push the limits of human potential. This is the Science for Sport podcast.
Many thanks to the head of sports science at FC Midtjylland, Niklas Virtanen, for his time today. If you found what he had to say interesting and want to find out more, you can do so by visiting our website, www.scienceforsport.com. And if you've enjoyed this particular episode, please do feel free to share it with a coach, a colleague, an athlete, or a friend. Remember, the more downloads we get, the easier it is for us to attract people like Niklas at the top of their profession and top-level athletes onto the podcast. Well, that's all for this week's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next time you join us on the Science for Sport podcast.
Subscribe to the Science for Sport podcast now, wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more insights, resources, and to join the Academy, visit scienceforsport.com and connect with us on social media by searching for @ScienceForSport. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.